How you doing?
I'm doing really good. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Oh, thanks. It's great to be on the show.
Yeah, we have a ton of email questions for you. One of the things with you, as long as we've been watching wrestling, there's only been about a handful of guys that I think anyone has ever seen pick up wrestling so quickly. And I mean, and most of them, as I started thinking of the names before the show, because I was thinking of Jumbo Tsuruta and Jun Akiyama in Japan, Owen Hart picked it up like really, really quick. But that's almost deserves an asterisk because he probably started doing it when he was 14, but just didn't turn pro till he was older.
Right.
But a lot of the names that would be like that, like natural, guys who come in and like just pick it up, a lot of them were good amateurs. And I read a quote from you once where you thought that the amateur background was not necessarily a help. Or do you think it was?
No, I to some extent it can be to an aggressive approach, but the way you're taught in a professional wrestling school breaks every law that you are taught when you're an amateur wrestler. So it's hard to break that law, but if you take the approach of everything you learned, do the opposite, then you're going to do just fine. And that was the thing I did. I became a lot more passive. Instead of going in there and thinking I was going to kick everyone's butt, I let people kick my butt until I learned. And doing that, I picked up on it pretty quickly. I mean, it depends. A lot of people have a great work ethic. So I have an outstanding work ethic, and I pick up things very quickly because I always want to learn. I'm always willing to learn. Even now, I learn 1,000 things every day in this sports entertainment industry that it amazes me. And that's I've always had an open mind, and that's why I'm always trying to better myself every time I go out there.
How did the WWF approach you about becoming a pro wrestler, and what did you think about it?
Well, the WWF approached me in 1996, and at that point I wasn't quite ready to get into sports entertainment, only because a lot of people were against it that were pretty much my peers, and they just felt that it was the wrong direction for me being an Olympic gold medalist, and a lot of people don't understand the sports entertainment aspect, that it's, if anything, it's basically someone that is an aspiring actor or is an actor that also does highly athletic things, and what better form of entertainment than that? That's what I wanted to do. I just didn't know I wanted to do it at that point in time, so I turned them down, and I started to watch wrestling, which I never did until 1998. And when I started watching it, that was the late summer, early fall of 1998, I realized how good of athletes these guys were, and I called Vince McMahon and said, hey, I'd like to come up and try out, and he gave me the tryout.
Now, were there any specific guys when you're talking about this where that stood out to you as you started watching it?
Yeah, I think obviously the top guy stood out dramatically, Stone Cold Steve Austin, just because he was so aggressive. And he reminded me a lot of myself as an amateur wrestler. And I was always considered a very aggressive wrestler that never let my opponents breathe. And so I caught to him quickly, but then when I started to watch, I started to take a liking to The Rock. I liked the way he approached everything, not just as an athlete, but everything else. I think that he has the gift. He's probably one of the most gifted guys out there in sports entertainment, if not the most gifted. And I started watching him, and I thought, you know what? I want to watch how this guy improves, how quickly, what he does, and I kept a close eye on him, and now here I am facing him, every other week, so it's kind of ironic, but, I learned a lot from him, and now I continue to learn from him because I get to work with him.
One of the things, when you were in Memphis, you did the classic 1970s babyface character,
Sure.
And then when you came to the WWF, it was almost a diametric opposite.
Uh-huh.
What was there? Who came up with the idea of being? Your character's sort of based on being a 1970s babyface,
right,
but in an obnoxious way. Who came up with that character for you?
Vince McMahon and the creative department came up with it because, when I did the interviews up in Stamford, Connecticut at my camps, I always came off as like a sportscaster kind of guy. I always had a smile on my face, almost too quote-unquote cheesy, and so I think Vince started watching the tapes, and he said, wow, this guy is something, because he really is an Olympic gold medalist, and he really is basically a goody two-shoe, you know, and to a certain extent. So what he did is he took Kurt Angle and my ethics and the way I live, and he turned it up 10,000 notches, and now I'm shoving them down people's throats and trying to preach to people how I live my life, and, you know, the 3 I's, quote-unquote, and, you know, always telling them facts about different things about wrestlers or cities, saying it's true, and so that's how I came up with that quote. But I think what he did is he just saw a lot in me, and he basically turned it up 1,000 times and created the character Kurt Angle, the real athlete, or the most celebrated real athlete in the WWF.
Did he come up with the 3 I's too?
Yes, he did. He said that he looked at me and that's what he saw. Saw a man of intensity, integrity, and intelligence, and then he ran with it, and anything he told me to do, I did, and it seemed like everything worked out that way. So I'd have to say Vince McMahon really knows what he's doing. If he didn't, he wouldn't be where he is today, but he definitely led me in the right direction.
You know, one thing that I had heard about you that I wasn't aware was when you were competing in college wrestling, and you won the NCAA championships as a heavyweight. I think one of the shows Jim Ross actually brought it up, but I'd never heard the story, that you weighed 196. You weighed 196 and won the heavyweight championship?
199, the lightest heavyweight ever in NCAA history.
Is there any reason why you went in at 199 and didn't go down to like the 190s? Because, you know, most of the guys...
Because I didn't have to. Actually, that year, heavyweight was a much more competitive weight class, too. But you know, I started out the year at 222. And if you've ever been in amateur wrestling practice, you'll realize how quickly you can lose weight, especially if your appetite isn't up and you're stressing out. Getting toward the end of the year, you start to lose. You know, the guys in the upper weight start to lose 10 to 15 pounds of weight that they normally don't want to lose. A lot of guys will come into the NCAAs on weight, and usually they're cutting 10 or 15 pounds to prepare for a tournament. That's just stress coming into the NCAAs, and that's what happened to me. So I found myself the last day. Of course, I went through the tournament. I think I was 203, then I was 201 the next day, and then I was 199 the last day, and I just couldn't believe it. It amazed me. I was under 200 pounds. But to be able to win the NCAAs, especially wrestling guys like Sylvester Turkey, who the WWF signed this year, he's a big guy. He's about 6'7", 330, and he was quite an impressive wrestler. And to beat guys like him really amazed myself. So you know, I owe a lot to my coaches and just the way I approached the game, and that was that I worked harder than anybody else and I prepared more. And that's how I am in sports entertainment. And that's probably why I'm improving pretty quickly here. But you know, I just don't want to slow it down. I want to continue to do that.
And didn't you suffer like a broken neck during the Olympic final?
Well, what happened was at the U.S. Open right before the Olympics, about 3.5 months before the Olympic Games, I got thrown directly on my head. And so I finished that match where I barely won, and then I had to wrestle in the finals that night, and I couldn't do anything in the finals. It was basically a push and shove match where I just tried to be more aggressive. I was just basically pushing the guy around the mat, digging underhooks so that the ref would call him for stalling. And I barely won that 0-0 referee's decision. So I went home and I couldn't do anything. What happened is I broke my neck, and I also herniated 2 discs in my neck, and the doctor said I wouldn't wrestle anymore. So I went to get a second opinion because I still had the Olympic trials in the Olympics, and I knew that was the last 2 tournaments that I'd ever wrestle in if I could win them. So I went to another doctor. He denied it, and then I went to a third, and he gave me permission as long as I showed improvement over the next 2 months. But we weren't seeing any improvement, so what he did was he would go to my practices, and he would shoot Novocaine into each side of my neck, and he would basically watch me wrestle and make sure I didn't do anything stupid. And I'd go half speed just to see how it would feel. And, you know, I don't condone that for anyone to have to shoot Novocaine into your neck, but cortisone was illegal at that point, you know, before the Olympic Games. So here I am shooting Novocaine in my neck just so I could wrestle. And I did that throughout the trials, and I end up winning the trials. But, you know, if I could do it all over again, I probably would do the same thing. But it's just that when you get to that point, that level, you don't want to give it up. And, you know, if it were any other level, if it was college level or high school level, I would have quit right there. But this was my last shot, and I wanted to make sure I went out a winner. So here I was doing that stuff, and I ended up winning the Olympic Games that way, which is kind of ironic.
Now, when did you make a decision that, you know, you were wrestling through 1996 and only through 1996? Because, you know, a lot of guys, you know, I mean, there's some guys in their mid-30s. In fact, sure. I saw there was, I think, isn't there a guy who's trying to make a comeback?
Oh yeah, I retired at one of the youngest ages that anyone's. I was 26. So, you know, I still had 2 more Olympic Games in me if I really wanted to do it, but that's not what I wanted to do. I am where I want to be, and that's in the WWF. I just didn't realize it then. You know, it's really hard as an Olympic wrestler or any world-class athlete. You know, you only get one opportunity every 4 years to make an impact worldwide. And, of course, you have the World Championships in between, but you hardly hear about them. And so, you know, it was really important to me. All that pressure is a lot different than being in a professional sport, because you can have a bad week and come back the next week and show that you're, you know, a great athlete, or you end up losing a game and winning a game. At the Olympics, you have one shot and that's it. So I knew I wanted to do it then, and once I won, that's when I realized I would retire. Until the referee raised my hand in the finals and I became Olympic champion, if that did not happen, if I would have placed second or lower, I would have been wrestling still in the 2000 Olympic Games.
You know, you were talking about going into that Olympic trials. At 220, as I recall, there are a couple of names that a lot of listeners would know, and one name that I don't think that they would know that were all in that trials with you. You were in there with, Mark Coleman, Mark Kerr, Dan Chade?
Oh, yeah.
You know, so...
we had one of the toughest weight classes, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, going in there with, like, a neck injury, I mean, those were... Was the trials any hard? Which was harder, the trials or the Olympics?
You know what? That's a hard question, because at 220 pounds worldwide, it's one of the most competitive weight classes. Normally, 220 pounds nationally is probably, you know, 5th or 6th most competitive. But at that particular time in 1996, it was one of the top weight classes because we had a lot of studs in there. You know, if you watch The Ultimate Fighting or anything like that, you see Mark Coleman and Mark Kerr completely dominating. And we had a lot of guys like that. Dan Chade, he was an outstanding wrestler. He was a 3-time Olympic alternate. The guy had some bad luck because 3 Olympics in a row he ended up second. You had young guys like Kerry McCoy and you know, just upcoming superstars that you're going to see in the future. So it was a really tough weight class. Kirk Trost was a world medalist, and so I had to prepare for every single one of those guys. But I have to say, when Russia broke up in 1992, you didn't only have one Russian in your weight class at the Olympics, you had 16 of them, because they all went to different countries and represented different countries. And that's the toughest nation in the world for wrestling, especially for the upper weights, because Russians are normally big people. And so I don't know which one would be tougher. I think because I wrestle the Americans all the time, it would be a lot harder to make the team, because they know my style a lot more than the foreign competition. But that's probably the only reason why it'd be tougher.
What do you think about, do you follow amateur, and what do you think about Brock Lesnar and Brock Lesnar signing with the WWF?
I think Brock can bring a lot to the table. I really don't know how he's going to produce in the WWF. He has a great look. I heard he's a phenomenal athlete, so I think he could have a big future. But you know as well as I do, you can't just be a good athlete. There's a lot that you have to bring to the table to be a success in the WWF. All I can say is we'll sit and see how he produces. If he can produce like his buddy Shelton Benjamin in Louisville, then we have a winner. I heard Shelton's doing an outstanding job down there, and you'll probably see him sooner than later. And I think Brock Lesnar has a lot of potential, but that's up to him, and I hope that he makes the right decisions to make it happen, because I'd love to work with a guy here in the WWF.
How is it, you know, whether it be for an amateur wrestling superstar or an Ultimate Fight competitor, or someone who's used to being in an environment where, you know, like on the ego, where, you know, how is it to give up the ego in the fact that, like, you know, you work so hard not to lose, and then all of a sudden some guy's coming up to, I mean, you know, because some guys mentally can't handle being, okay, tonight you lose. And other guys, you know, I think can just look at it and just go, it's entertainment, and it's not really even an aspect of it.
Well, you know what? That's where you split reality from fantasy. And I'm not going to lie to you. There are guys in the WWF that really think they're their character. And, that's a problem. The thing is, I am my character, but, hey, that's okay. What I found out in the WWF is the guys that were the best athletes, we're talking at a college level, Olympic level, professional level, they're the guys that have worked as a team with other people and have that team concept. They seem like they're the guys that are willing to accept taking the loss a lot more. And that's what I don't understand, because a lot of people would be upset with losing. Me, on the other hand, I really don't care. As long as I put on a great performance, that's all I care about. And it's just kind of funny to see some of the guys that actually, they don't want to accept a loss, especially if they lose fair and square. If there wasn't a cheat involved or somebody doing a run-in or a distraction. And it just amazes me that anybody would be like that. But I do have to say, in the most part, the WWF, the guys there working together, have been really good. I just heard some rumors in the past where it's kind of hard to understand that, these guys can't separate that. And it amazes me.
Did you ever think about doing no-holds-barred fighting back before you got in the WWF?
The Ultimate Fighting?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've been approached many times by the Ultimate Fighting. If I were to do something like that, I would not be living in Pittsburgh. I probably would have moved down to San Diego, California to train with Kenny Shamrock. And Kenny was trying to recruit me for a long time. That's one thing about the Ultimate Fighting. I would never go in there with just amateur wrestling skills. I don't think... very few people have been able to pull it off where they can win the Ultimate Fighting just on amateur wrestling alone. I think Danny Severn might have done it once. Mark Coleman has done it before he started to open up his repertoire of technique. That's the one thing about Ken Shamrock, and what makes him so effective is he is so well-rounded at all disciplines. And that's the way I would take the approach, too, if I were to do it. And I'd have to go to a school like Kenny Shamrock's.
Let's start taking some phone calls. We'll start with Rob in Connecticut. You're first up with Kurt Angle.
Hey, Kurt. Hey, Dave.
Hey, how you doing?
I just had two quick questions for Kurt. Are you surprised or amazed on how fast your character has caught on with the fans?
Am I surprised on how fast the character has caught on? Is that what you said?
You get.
Yeah, I really am. I thought it would take a lot more time. I know I've worked my butt off to make it happen, but I also know that the fans here in the WWF, they're not the easiest fans to fool. I mean, you have to have real talent for them to appreciate it. And I remember Jim Ross, when I joined, I was asking him, I didn't really understand the business at the time. I said, hey, Jim, how long is it going to take me to get on TV? A month? 2 months? He said, Kurt, you'll go on TV when you're ready. And I swear it took me a year, but I swear it felt like 5 years. And I'm glad that he waited, because if I would have went on any sooner, I might have made a fool out of myself. And, for an Olympic champion athlete to go into the WWF and make a fool out of himself, and I've seen guys do it, and I'm not going to say any names, but,
I know.
You don't want that to happen, because the fans aren't forgiving. And if you're in that situation, it'll be hard as heck to bail yourself out. So I'm glad they took their time with me.
I have one more question. With you crossing the handshaking line with Stephanie on Monday, is that going to lead to anything with you and Triple H down the road?
I believe so. I think something's going to happen. I think it's going to be a point where she's going to have to choose. And that might just be me talking, but I think the fans can expect something like that to happen in the future. And I think it's just the direction they want to go with my character. I'm at a point now where I've done so much as this one-dimensional, I don't want to say one-dimensional, but you always want to change, and you always want to come up with different directions, and I think they're starting to come up with another direction for me, and I expect big things at King of the Ring and a lot of bigger things afterwards. So I think we're all in the we're all thinking the same thing, and Vince McMahon has done nothing but great things for me, and I expect nothing less than that in the future. So I'm pretty excited about it.
All right, thanks a lot, Kurt.
Thank you.
All right.
How promos do you write?
Go ahead, Bryan.
How much of the intros do you write, your speeches before your match?
Who helps me write them?
Yeah.
And how much do you do yourself also?
You know what? I'd say it's a little bit of everybody. Vince McMahon definitely comes up with some good stuff. I have a writer there, Bryan. I can't even remember his last name, but him and I, believe it or not, Bryan's a very good friend of mine. I can't even remember his last name, but I know him as Bryan. He comes up with a lot of great ideas, a lot of great concepts, and we sit down and I throw in my 2 cents worth, and then we both go to Vince McMahon, and Vince finalizes it. And Vince always changes it around just a little bit to make it more effective. So it's kind of a team thing, but you want to be involved in what you're going to say because you're saying it. If you let someone else write everything, you're not going to be completely comfortable with what you're saying. And I think that's really important, is to stay highly involved in your character and portraying your character and trying to evolve that character. And that's what I try to do. I call Bryan on the week during the week to find out what could possibly happen the next week, so I have something in my mind that I'd like to say. So I'd say it's a team thing, but Vince McMahon definitely has a big impact on that.
Before we go on, I just got this email that I had to read. This has nothing to do with Kurt Angle, but it says, I guess last night on Thunder, and I missed this, Bryan, it said there was a sign in the front row that said, blur this sign, WCW.
I didn't see that.
Oh, my God.
What did it say?
Blur, because a lot of times on WCW, especially on the taped shows, they digitize a lot of signs because either they got bad language or they have messages that they don't want on television. So there's a sign that goes, blur this sign, WCW.
And they didn't blur it.
They didn't blur it.
Oh, man. That is great.
Now, who came up with the concepts as far as like some of the stuff like when you did that stuff at the college with I think it was Penn State for the abstinence and that aspect of the gimmick?
Bryan and Vince both together came up with that, and I'm not sure what they want to do with that. I think it had to do with my character being so clean cut. And really, if you watch my matches and the things I do, I'm not always such a clean cut guy. I mean, I'll win any way I can. So here I am, I'm preaching one way, and sometimes I'll go the other. So, my character's unpredictable in one way. But he threw in the abstinence because, athletes, let's face it, we were always told all our lives to not, to stay abstinent or don't have sex before your events. So what they did is they blew that up, too, and said, okay, this guy's never had sex. That's why he won the Olympics. Okay, that's why he won 2 belts in the WWF, because he will not have sex. And so, that's what we're doing. We're basically making fun of athletes from the past, having this concept that sex is bad and, women weaken legs, if you remember Rocky. So
I remember that story. When you were in college, by the way, when you were in college, did you actually get that from coaches and stuff? Because I remember when I was in college.
Always.
When I was in college, one of my we had a very good wrestling team, and one of my good friends was going to the NCAA tournament, and I mean, the coaches banned him from seeing his girlfriend before that tournament. Right.
It's all theory, and it cracks me up because it's so untrue. But that's what we were doing. We're basically making fun of athletes for being like that, and now here I am. I did it one time, and we had to run with it because it was so funny. So I'm the man of 3 eyes and a big A. And who knows where I'm going to go next? You never know. A year from now, I'll probably be in a bar drinking with Bradshaw and, saying the 3 eyes suck.
I loved. One skit that I loved was it was when. You were trying to get back, I think it was at the Acolytes, and you went to the Boss Man, and the Boss Man started talking about, that angle of the Big Show. I dragged his daddy and all this, and then you just kind of looked at him and go, yeah.
Yeah, I was in shock, this guy is crazy. Yeah, you know what, I have a lot of fun doing the vignettes. I think that's my best work, and it's because Bryan and I come up with some great concepts where we make my character seem so off the wall, where, a lot of times I'll even do like a normal vignette, and at the end I'll say something completely out of the blue that means nothing. And it's just like, wow, this guy is a complete idiot. But, like the other night I was talking to Edge and Christian, and I basically said, hey, if we win this match tonight, we had like a 6-man tag. I said, if we win this match tonight, there's no doubt in my mind. And they're like, yeah. And I said, we will win the honor of, we will defend the honor of Stephanie McMahon Helmsley. And they were like, so what? I said, and maybe she'll be in a good enough mood to give you guys another tag team shot. So they got all excited, and we were getting ready to walk away. And I said, I beat Bradshaw last week. just out of nowhere, because it's so important for me to win. No matter if I get my butt kicked or not, as long as I win, that's all that matters. Like when I got choked out against Taz at the pay-per-view, I woke up. I said, did I win or did I lose? That's my first thing. It's not did I get my ass kicked or, and they said he choked me. I said, that's illegal. I won, right? And it's like I got embarrassed on TV, but as long as I won, that's all that mattered. And it's funny because that's how athletes really are.
I got a question. You have a couple of you have like a brother and like a nephew that were in the NCAAs in the last couple of years?
Yeah.
Who are the family members?
He's a three-time All-American. He went to Clarion, and he was ranked first in the nation his last 2 years. But his junior year, he lost in the semifinals against the guy he beat at the All-Star match. He got caught behind, and he tried to catch up. He ended up third that year, and it was very upsetting to him. And then this year, he hurt his knee about 3 weeks before the Nationals, and he went out there and just did his best and ended up fourth. So he had some bad luck, but he is a much better wrestler than I ever was. I just stayed healthy. I was a little bit better of an athlete, as a natural athlete, but as a wrestler, he had all the tools, and it's a shame not to see someone like him win a national title.
Is he interested in pro? And also, what is the reaction that you've gotten now that you're actually a pro wrestling? Instead of just going into pro wrestling when you first started, but now that you're pretty much of a success in pro wrestling, what's the reaction of some of the guys that you competed against? Are they a lot more, they see it a lot easier now than maybe when you first started and some people might have thought you were selling out or whatever the term would be?
Definitely. I think a lot of people are a little bit upset, but after watching me on TV and getting to know what it's all about, because I didn't understand it at the beginning either, they're happy for me, and they're happy that here I am. Whether I say I'm a wrestler or not, people know I won the Olympics in amateur wrestling. I'm promoting my sport every single time I go out there. And amateur wrestling does not get much exposure. So me being in there really helps our sport, whether people like it or not. That's just the way it is. If some pro football player comes in and does something for the WWF or the other federation, obviously he's given his football league exposure, and that's what I'm doing to wrestling. And hopefully, if you notice, we're starting to sign a lot of amateur wrestlers. So I think they thought, we caught on big with Kurt Angle. Let's see if we can get a couple more shooters in here, get the ball rolling. That has a lot to do with Jerry Briscoe, because he was a former amateur wrestler and he loves amateur wrestlers. So you might see a lot more in the future. And anybody that's aspiring to be a pro wrestler, amateur wrestling is definitely a way to go. If you want to learn just the pro wrestling tactics, you don't want to be an amateur wrestler, but it really shows you how to protect yourself in many ways. And I think that's really important. Is when you come into the WWF or any other federation, if you're an amateur wrestler, these guys, for one, won't take advantage of you because they know that you can protect yourself. And they also know that you're going to be a pretty damn tough guy. And as long as you pick it up and you do what you're told, you're going to have a lot of respect. And that's what the guys, I've been really nice to the guys, and the guys have been nice to me, and I've gotten a lot of respect throughout the federation. I think it's because of my accomplishments in my particular sport.
Do you think that as far as from the mental approach, that amateur wrestling may have been real beneficial in as far as in that to be an amateur wrestler at the level that you were, you've got to be exceedingly mentally tough, and and not a crybaby, and not or else you're just not going to make it to that level. And in pro, it's a good trait to have because you're traveling to 18, 20 cities a month.
Sure.
It can be real hard, and if you let it be, I mean, it is real hard.
You know what? It is hard, but it's not a problem to me because you're right. I did a lot of traveling. I traveled 10 months a year, amateur wrestling, trained 8 hours every single day. So I know what it feels like to be like this, where it's long, grueling, exhausting schedule. And I enjoy it. I've always enjoyed that. As long as I'm working hard and I'm keeping myself busy, that's when I'm happiest. And, so I do owe a lot to amateur wrestling. The reason why I'm doing so well in professional wrestling definitely has to do with my mental approach and my mental and physical toughness. There's no doubt about that, and wrestling gave me that, amateur wrestling, no doubt.
We'll start with Adam in Brooklyn.
Oh, hey, Kurt. I'm a big fan. I have 2 questions for you.
Sure.
One's easy and one's a little bit harder. I was looking at WrestleWire.com, and they had some, King of the Ring, who's in it. I was wondering, who are you facing in the next round, if you know?
I don't have any idea. I think right now, are we in the final 16?
Yeah.
We were just wondering that yesterday.
I think so.
I don't even know. Heck, I beat Bradshaw, though. Did you know that?
After tonight's SmackDown, it's the final 8. So everyone who survived, so we're really in the final 8 right now.
Okay, so basically, Kurt Angle got a bye last round and didn't know it.
Wait, what happened? What happened? No, you beat Bradshaw.
I beat Bradshaw in the first round.
Okay.
And I haven't wrestled since.
Oh, well, you should probably wrestle at some point.
I wrestled in a 6-man tag, and then let's see, after that, I wrestled...
I had a stack of people sending me stuff. We had it all figured out, and then I threw it away.
I don't know who I wrestled. I might have wrestled somebody.
Dave, I think I know what's going on here.
We need bracketing real bad.
Well, tonight's show is the last 2 matches of the round of 32. And then on Heat, the first 2 matches of the round of 16 start.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right. Okay. That's right.
Okay.
So, yeah. So we'd be in the final. Right. Okay. It's the final 8 matches, but it's the final 16 that starts.
Okay, so we're still in the 16, right?
Right, and the matches that start this coming Sunday that were taped on Tuesday would be the first matches of the round of the round of 16. Okay.
Okay, so I will have a match this Monday for the 16. I'm not sure against who, but I do know that as the rounds get later and later, you're going to see a lot of surprises.
Okay, and I have this is my harder question.
You're not going to see the typical format or the final 4 that you would normally see, and I think that's going to be really interesting. You'll like it. I can promise you that. I just don't know who yet. I'm not going to tell you who, but I can promise you'll like it.
Okay, this is my harder question. I was wondering, you went to ECW in 1996, inquiring about work. Or I read that someplace. And
he was at a show doing a commentating appearance.
Yeah, and it was when I don't know, it was Taz match, I think. But I was wondering what happened there, because I heard it was something about the crucifixion angle they did with Sandman and Raven. And what was the whole deal about that?
Well, actually, of course the ECW is a little more hardcore, and I went to the event. They were basically promoting it as a more legitimate form of wrestling. Basically, what they told me, and this was in, I think, late 96, maybe early 97, they told me that it was more my kind of wrestling. Okay, they didn't tell me what it was. I never watched pro wrestling, so you have to understand, when I got there, I was a little bit surprised. And, when I watched the first match, I was like, oh, my God. So they told me that I would commentate Taz's match with, I think, an Italian kid. I can't remember his name.
Guido?
Jeez, why can't I remember that? And actually, they did a little bit of amateur wrestling at the beginning, so I commentated the match. And basically, that's all I had to do. And I started watching the rest of the match. And me being an Olympic champion that year, I did a lot of speaking to kids and a lot of inspirational speaking. Did a lot of speeches for churches and stuff like that. And not that it doesn't really matter what people do. It's just the fact that I went. They misled me, and when I got there, they told me they wouldn't do anything unethical that would offend, what I was doing, and he knew, which direction I was going at that particular time. So Paulie wasn't really honest with me, and what happened is, here I was watching, I think it was Raven putting Sandman up on a cross, where Sandman's son was actually telling Raven to do it, and he was getting into it, and and there was blood everywhere, and that was fine. I mean, if that's a form of entertainment that people enjoy. But if you would have seen the reaction of the crowd, I mean, everybody was more in shock than they were entertained. And everybody just kind of started looking at each other, and they were just like, oh, geez. And I looked at Paulie and I said, Paulie, you tell me this isn't going to be on TV right after I just commentated. And Paulie said, Kurt, I didn't know they were going to do it, whether he lied or not. He told me they didn't know they were going to do it, and he promised me it wouldn't be on TV, it would be on videotape. That was fine with me, but the problem was, I don't care what they do. They can do anything they want to do. They can put whoever on a cross. It might offend me, but it might not offend other people. And that's the one thing I've learned about sports entertainment. There's something for everyone. But the thing is, Paulie wasn't honest with me, and that's the problem I had. So I told him if it aired on TV at the same time that I aired, that he'd probably be hearing from my attorney. So, and I don't want anybody to think that I'm some, idiot jerk that won't let Paulie do what he wants to do. I'm just saying they weren't honest with me, and that's the problem I had with them, because I don't have a problem with whatever they want to do. I mean, this is a free country. You can do whatever you want. I was just a little bit offended that they would bring in an Olympic gold medalist that speaks to children for a living and have a little child helping someone put the guy up on the cross to crucify him. I just thought that was a little bit over edge.
That never even made tape, Kurt.
Yeah.
Did you have any kind of a problem as far as like when in the WWF when they did, because they did some crucifixion angles a couple of times as well?
Sure, when Stone Cold and the Undertaker and stuff. I don't have a problem with it. It obviously isn't something that makes me want to watch it. But it is entertainment. You're going to see it in movies. You're going to see it on television shows. And basically what they're saying is this is no different than that. And so, if it happens, it happens. That's cool. If I had kids and I was watching it, I'd probably turn the channel until it was off, but I would definitely turn it back on. And I'm a big believer in parents making sure the kids don't see what they don't want them to see. And that's easy. That's why you have a remote control. And I'm a big believer in that WWF is great for kids to watch because it's a form of entertainment that kids can get into. You can always, as long as you monitor your kids and tell them, hey, don't go to school and hit somebody over the head with a chair. I mean, that's pretty stupid. What you're seeing on TV might not be all fake, but it's a form of entertainment for people to enjoy. It's not to promote kids to go out and be violent. But like I said, I think it's real important to show your kids certain things. I think Stone Cold is a great, believe it or not, role model for kids because he shows courage. He shows bravery. So it's not like Stone Cold, this guy that just breaks all the laws and kicks everyone's butt and he doesn't listen to anyone. Stone Cold Steve Austin, in a lot of ways, is a role model for kids. He might swear, that's not good, but he does stand up for himself when he has to. And, there are certain things that you can teach your kids. There are good things about people and there are bad things about people, and you want to teach your kids the good things about people.
But no drinking and driving.
Exactly.
Bryan, when he was talking about the ECW, could you imagine someone who actually had never seen pro wrestling? I mean, because I watched pro wrestling my whole life, and the first time I went to ECW, it was like kind of, I didn't know it. It was kind of different.
It was a different kind of wrestling.
It was an all-star cast that night. I was impressed because I never watched it before, but years later, I'm like, wait a minute, I saw him at ECW. Oh, my God, I saw him. I mean, it was Mankind, Perry Saturn, there was the Sandman Raven, Steve Williams. I could name a bunch of people. The Blue Meanie, Stevie Richards. I could go down a list of 20 that you would see in exposed every week after week. I mean, it was an amazing roster.
That was actually... Oh.
Go ahead.
I said that was actually a really great show because they had like the Eliminators against Williams and Terry Gordy and stuff like that. Like it was like really all-star kind of matches. But the thing that no one ever saw most of them because they did that crucifixion angle and then they were cutting the Christian censors. They wouldn't let them put it on tape and sell it.
They wouldn't put it on tape to sell it?
Nope. And Raven, he came out and apologized for the whole thing.
You know what? I didn't think Raven should have done that. I don't really think that he had anything to apologize for. I mean, he was basically expressing himself and doing what he felt would entertain people. Nobody expected Raven to apologize, and that's the one thing a lot of people say, Kurt, I can't believe you made Raven go out there and apologize. I didn't make him go out. I didn't even want him to.
That was Paul's doing.
Okay, that was Paul's doing. The whole point was, Raven just did something that no one else has ever done. He went a little bit over edge, but that's what this is all about. Sports entertainment, we do a lot of things that are over the edge. So I don't think Raven felt it was offensive by any means, but Raven is Raven. Kurt Angle's Kurt Angle. I would never do a crucifixion thing, or I would never think of it. But, everyone's different.
I think Paul's feeling was that as a Jewish owner of a company with a Jewish performer in Raven, that he didn't want it to, he was afraid it would come out bad.
Making fun of a...
like he's making fun of another religion, so he just figured that he felt that it would be better, and he just told him to go out there and apologize. And I think Raven it was a kind of half-ass apology anyway.
He didn't want to be there. He
didn't want to do it. Yeah, he didn't want to do it, so.
Yeah, he was almost better off not going out there. because he just showed everybody he didn't really give a heck. He was like, yeah, whatever. I apologize. See you later. And you know, that's cool and everything. I mean, he just didn't feel like he needed to. But you know, you're right though. I think that Paulie, that was definitely a good thing, because if Paulie, I didn't even know he was Jewish. But you're right, that would definitely come off to some people that, you know, here are these Jewish people are making fun of Christians, you know, and that wouldn't that would be pretty bad on his part. So I think he was just trying to protect himself too.
Okay, let's go to Dave in Pennsylvania. Dave, you're next up.
Hello. I'd just like to say I'm a big fan of Kurt. He went to Clarion. I went to Mansfield University. Do you know where that is, Kurt?
Oh yeah, Mansfield. That's on the other side of the state, but. I see those guys at the PSACs every year.
Mm-hmm. I think in the PSAC, yeah. My friend was telling me once about how you pinned him, just obliterated him, and it was a funny story. And now I see you're doing so well, and I'm just a huge fan of your work. And I just mark out, you know, every time, because you get the great promo, then you get the excellent wrestling match too, and you're like the real total package in my mind. So I'm going to stop sounding like a mark here. And I just wanted to talk about how I really like the WWF, how it has so many great wrestlers and so much storyline potential. And just sitting here, I was going to ask you about the ECW thing, and that's already been asked. And another question kind of came to mind, and that's it. I see, like, when Steve Austin comes back, and if he's able to get in shape, and I think he will, because he has that work ethic and love for the business.
Definitely.
I think Steve Austin is going to make it back, and I think he's going to do great. And I think of all these feuds for Steve Austin. I think you could bring back Benoit, or you can bring Austin and have him feud with Benoit. Kind of like a reverse of the Bret Hart feud, where Benoit is playing the Austin role against Bret Hart, and Austin would be playing the Bret Hart role. And then, say, Benoit is the one dogging Steve Austin in his return, like when Steve Austin dogged Bret Hart in his return. And I think that could be a huge feud. I think there's a Triple H feud with Austin, and then maybe at WrestleMania you could do an Austin heel turn and a Rock feud with him. That would be huge. But I think what would really set it off, Steve Austin's return, is if you stayed heel and feuded with Steve Austin, because I think your characters, I mean, it's just the perfect match. The promos would just be amazing, and the wrestling would be great. And I think it'd be really good for putting you over. I'd like to know, first, there's two questions. First, if that has been talked about with you, when Austin returns, whether you would be his first opponent or be in line to wrestle him. And secondly, if Raven was brought in, I think with your style of promos and your character, I think you could put Raven over huge as a babyface. And I think eventually, just a quick comment, I think I could see you wrestling Triple H in the Stephanie feud, second from the top of the card at WrestleMania, if there is an Austin heel turn and there's an Austin Rock match at the next WrestleMania. But I just want to know, have they talked with you about wrestling Steve Austin on his return, having a quick feud with him, you know, like a 2-month thing or a 1-month thing? And would you be interested in working with Raven and putting him over, or working with him if he comes to the WWF in a month or two? And that's about it. And thanks for staying with me, Dave. Appreciate it.
Okay.
You know what? I could barely hear him, but he said something about Stone Cold Steve Austin and me doing. Maybe I'd be able to put him over. Or...
He was asking if you would. If anyone's talked to you about maybe wrestling Steve Austin when Steve Austin came. Does that mean that you would have to be the one who ran him over with that car?
Yeah, maybe it would be. It messed his neck up. You know what? I've always dreamed of working with Stone Cold Steve Austin, and I do agree with him. I think that. First of all, nobody has to put Stone Cold over. Stone Cold is over himself. I think it would be a very, very exciting feud only because of our personality contradictions. You know, he could really make me look like a fool and entertain the fans, and I could actually make myself look like a fool. I've done that many times. But I think that would be a really good mix, and I expect that to happen in the future. I think Stone Cold will be back. He deserves to come back at the very top, and as long as he stays in the business, he'll always be at the very top. But it'd be an honor to work with him, and I think that we could definitely complement each other. As far as Raven, I think he said something about me working with Raven. I have nothing against Raven. I would love to work with Raven. If he ever came to the WWF, he's a phenomenal worker. He's great on the stick. I heard he's very cooperative working with. It would be an honor to work with him too. I've never had a problem with him, and I think that he is one of the best in the business himself. So, as far as putting him over, I think it would be a good chemistry to work with him. I think that our characters would definitely contradict enough that it would be very interesting. But again, I wouldn't have to put him over. I think he'd be, whatever direction they put him or wherever he wanted to go, I think he could do it himself. So if that answers that question, I hope I did. As far as Triple H, I think he said something about Triple H and me at WrestleMania.
Yeah, maybe he was thinking like you and Triple H rocking Austin is like maybe a double main event. That's getting way ahead of ourselves, but it's a possibility too.
Sure. That is getting way, way, way ahead of ourselves. You never know. As a matter of fact, they have a direction. They could have a direction for the next 8 months, but as well as I do, it can change tomorrow. So there are no guesses. There are no definites. It's just keep doing your work, and hopefully, you'll make yourself go in the right direction, and they'll help you. They'll lead you along the way. I don't see it being impossible. I think it's a possibility that you will see Triple H and myself team up, but I think you're going to see Triple H and myself go against each other before we team up, and I think it has to do with the storyline.
Okay, guys, now it's time for WWF Daily Trivia. Here's today's question. What was the main event of the highest-rated WWF television show of the modern era? And from modern era, let's say 1984 to the present. That's good modern, because I don't know about the TV ratings in the 50s, because I know that they were huge. So that's another era. Anyway, we're back here with Kurt Angle, of course, it's myself and Brian Alvarez, and a full bank of phone calls. Before we get to the calls, this is a question from Andre Rinconio. Who is asking about the 1996, God, I don't want to make you old, 1996 Olympic final against the Iranian. He says the match ended in a 1-1 tie, and then you won the decision. What was behind all that?
Well, what happened is we tied 1-1 in regulation. We went into overtime, and we tied in overtime. So it came down to a referee's decision. And they went with who made more aggressive moves throughout the match. And I'm not sure how they keep track of that. And to be honest with you, I've watched the match 1,000 times now, and I still can't pick a winner. But the thing is, I won the World Championships the year before, so I was a reigning world champion. And I think what the judges had to do is decide which one. The match was so even, so dead even, that they had to come up with a decision. And I think what they did is they went with the reigning world champion. That was me. So, here we are tied 1-1. And actually, at the very end of the match, I did take them down, and one ref awarded me a point that the other two did not. And if one other official would have awarded that point, then they wouldn't have had to decide. It would have been 2-1. So a lot of people feel that I did win 2-1, and that might have been the factor in me winning. That, and also being the reigning world champion. So it was a very, very tight match. And when you have something like that, one guy can only be the winner. But I think we both put on a great match, and we both went out there to win. So I give him a lot of credit. You're going to see a lot of him in the 2000 games.
Did you ever cross paths with Dan Severn, or was he just before your time?
Actually, Danny beat me in 1988. I was a freshman in college. I was 18 years old, and I think Danny at that particular time, he's about 10 years older than me. So
he's 12 years older than you. He's 12 years older than you.
Oh, wow. So Danny had a lot more experience on me. He beat me 1-0, and I think at that point he was actually the reason that I thought that I could be successful in international wrestling, because this guy was considered one of the top 10 wrestlers. I'd say he was ranked about 10th in the world at the particular time. And here I went 1-0 with him, so I realized that I did have the talent to go on to the next level because I was so young. And that was about the only time I wrestled him, though. So losing 1-0 to Danny Severn at that particular time was really good. And Danny ended up retiring after that.
Let's go to Chad in North Carolina. Chad, you're up with Kurt Angle.
Hey, guys, how's it going?
Real good.
Hey, Kurt, I was going to ask you about the Taz thing, but I guess somebody else took that. Me and my brother met you in an autograph session. He wanted me to tell you to thank you for signing our stuff.
You know what? Could you repeat what he said? I'm having trouble listening.
He just said that that him and his brother met you or at an autograph session. He just wanted to thank you for signing everything.
Oh, sure. I appreciate that. Thank you for coming. That's great.
And who do you think are the most underrated people in the WWF?
Can you hear that?
Who do I think are the most underrated people in the WWF?
Yeah, underrated wrestlers in the WWF.
You know what? The thing is, I'd have to say there are a lot of them. You know, you look at guys like Chris Benoit. Chris is phenomenal. He's got a phenomenal presence about him. He's even a better worker than he is, than his presence. He is the Intercontinental Champion. There's not much higher he can go, but even Chris is underrated. So, I mean, where do we mark the rated and underrated? Which guys are underrated? Chris Benoit, I think, is one of the best in the business, and he deserves the WWF Championship. So, there are many guys. I look at guys like Val Venus that, might have had that one character that kind of, it might have pushed him at the beginning, but it might have held him back just a little bit, as he took the next step. So I'd say a guy like Val Venus is a guy that's a little bit underrated as well. D'Lo Brown, you talk about a phenomenal athlete. There's an incredible athlete right there that he weighs 285 pounds and he can do spring moonsaults and just incredible things. So there are a lot of guys out there, but I'd have to say that a lot of guys can be underrated. It's just a matter of their time will come in the future. And, I can't complain because I've been getting, I don't like to call it a push, but, I've been taking the necessary steps to going to the WWF Championship, to winning the belt. So I can't say I'm underrated. I think I've been blessed with a lot of people helping me out. So, but I can't answer that question because, who can you say is underrated? I think Chris Benoit could be the WWF champion right now, so I'd say he's underrated. And there are guys that are, the beginning undercards that deserve to go the next step. It's just going to take a little bit more time.
And a question for you, Dave. Which in your opinion was more brutal, the Terry Funk versus Sabu Born to be Wired match, or the Foley Undertaker Hell in a Cell?
They're totally different. I never saw except clips of the Terry Funk Sabu barbed wire match. I mean, I seen the clips of it, and it looked. I mean, I didn't really. I could say that like what I saw in the clips of it, I didn't like. And Undertaker, Mick Foley, the Hell in the Cell. I mean, was probably the one match that's universally regarded as like a fantastic match. I mean, I respect it of what he was trying to do, but I didn't like it because it scared me for what the business might turn into. I just thought that it was too dangerous. I mean, if you do something where there's a risk of injury, or you're doing high risk moves, it's one thing. But to me, to do moves where there's a certainty of injury, I think crosses the line. And I mean, one of the bumps didn't go exactly as planned, but he could have been hurt so bad, and he was hurt real bad anyway. So it was like, to me, it's like. I think the art is making it look like you're hurt when you're not injuring yourself, rather than doing something. And look what it spawned on like that the WCW pay-per-view. Trying to top it. It's like, to me, I don't know. I don't find that wrestling where a guy sets himself on fire and jumps off a 40-foot thing into an air mattress. It's a movie stunt.
Right. And you're right. It's a matter of making that illusion that the guy is more hurt than he really is. And you're putting yourself in situations like that. Sometimes I think guys get a little bit over the edge, and they put them in a dangerous situation where they can't turn back, and they got to continue to try to outdo what they did before. I don't think that's a very good approach to have a long career in such a great, way of entertainment. So you definitely have to protect yourself, and you never want to stick your neck out too far, because then you'll find yourself never coming back. And I think that's what some people have done in the past. And you got to remember, these people not only want to see how impressive your wrestling moves or stunts that you do, but they want to continue to get to know your character. They want to continue to see what direction you're heading. And if you're not there for the next 5 or 10 years, these people will never see who you are, because you went and tried to do all these crazy things and you end up messing yourself up. So I think you can go to a certain degree, but you don't want to go too far.
And,
anything else, Fred? Okay.
Can I get one thing just for my brother?
Hello?
You better ask what it is, because
Okay.
no open-ended questions.
Okay, my brother wants you to say it's true, it's true.
I knew that was it. I knew that's what it was.
You knew that? You want me to say it?
You don't have to.
No, what the heck, you know? I'm Kurt Angle, your Olympic hero, a man of intensity, integrity, and intelligence. It's true. It's true.
All right, thanks, Kurt.
Thank you.
All right.
Actually,
you were talking one
this
time about WWF guys that you thought might have been really good amateurs but never really did it.
You know, that's funny you say that, because we just got done talking about that. Chris Benoit would have been phenomenal. Bob Holly, another one that would have been an incredible wrestler. Another one that's a real big surprise, but I've seen him move in the ring, is Bubba Ray Dudley. Very aggressive, very quick, good hips, and it's just a matter of hip power and explosion. And these guys, and work ethic. You know, Chris Benoit and Bob Holly might be the two hardest trainers. When you see him in those two in the gym, you'd be amazed at what they do. And it definitely keeps them young, but it amazes me because I don't do that stuff anymore. I mean, I used to train like a madman 8 hours a day. Now I do more, you know, training for appearance than I do for power and explosion and stuff like that. And I'd have to say those three guys would be really, really good amateur wrestlers.
I got a question about two guys as far as perhaps amateur wrestlers, and one's Ken Shamrock and the other's the Big Show. Just because of the massive size.
Oh, I think the Big Show would have been a phenomenal wrestler too, but he chose basketball. I heard he was pretty decent too.
On the high school level,
he used to wrestle. Did you know Kenny was an amateur?
Oh yeah, you know, he was a really good high school wrestler out here, but then he never wrestled college.
No, he actually tried out in the '88 Olympics, which you never see anyone do, is basically wrestle in high school, skip whatever it was. I think it was about 6 years, come back and train for the Olympics. But Kenny tried out, and he just wanted to do it once. He didn't have a lot of success, but, you know, that's what I'm talking about. Kenny is the kind of guy that he's a jack of all trades. He knows every discipline, and that's what makes him so dangerous in the Ultimate Fighting is he knows how to wrestle. He knows how to defend wrestlers. He knows jiu-jitsu. He knows kickboxing. He knows boxing. He knows karate. This guy knows everything, and that's what makes him so effective in Ultimate Fighting.
Have you ever thought about ways you might have to tweak your character a little bit, or if you think you would have to be at the, you know, if you were at the top level?
Yeah, I think so. The one thing we've done with my character, and we might have pushed it a little bit too far, is we made it into more of a comedy character.
So that's like what I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah, and we did that on purpose, just to, you know, I know that Vince McMahon wanted me to portray more as a heel, and lately I've been getting a lot of babyface pops. But I think what he wanted to try to do before he really, I think he's going to send me in the really, really dark heel direction. He wanted people to appreciate what I do and like me before he sends me in that direction. So I think what we did is we came up with a little more comedy so people were entertained, and then eventually I'll probably do the Triple H thing and go a little more serious. But he never wants to get rid of Kurt Angle, the character that, you know, where people can laugh a little bit. I think it's a little bit like The Rock, you know. Rock's pretty serious, but he says a couple of things that you just have to laugh. And I think that's what they want to do with me. So, you know, I can't complain. I know that whatever direction they take me, it's better in the long run. And I've been patient up until now, and I'll continue to be patient.
Did you ever, after the Olympics, or when the time came when you decided you wanted to go pro, or even now that you are a pro wrestler, ever think about or discuss wrestling Japanese style?
Oh, yeah. I don't know if anyone has told you this, but before I started on TV, the WWF was going to send me over there.
For one of the Pride shows or something, or a Seance show or something?
Well, they weren't sure if they're going to send me over for a few weeks or a few months. And you never know in this kind of entertainment, a few weeks could end up being 6-8 months. So I was heading over there. I think it was FMW.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which was, from what I heard, was surprising to a lot of people, because people would have thought more All or New Japan would be more, you know, a direction that they'd want to send me. But for some reason, they were thinking FMW, and I was going to head over there, and I would love to work that. You know, guys like Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero talk about it all the time. They loved it. Chris Jericho, and, you know, they said, Kurt, you would have been great at that. And I would have loved to go over there and experience that, but they wanted me to start right away, so here I am.
We've got 2 contest winners. Adrian Pickworth of Australia and Chris McMurdy of Ontario. The question of what was the main event of the highest rated television show, WWF television show, or any wrestling television show in the United States of the modern era? And the answer is Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant from February of 1988 on NBC's live main event. It did a 15.2 rating, which is impressive. Yeah.
15.2.
Yeah, nothing's come close to that. I don't think anything's going to come close to that for, I don't want to say forever, but
it could possibly be that, but I think wrestling's still going to go up a little bit, I think.
It's in some.
I don't think for everybody.
Yeah, not for everybody. Yeah, that's what
You're right about that.
Yeah. Let's go to John in Tampa, Florida. John, you're next up.
Hey, buddy.
John.
Hello?
Hey.
Hey, what's up, Kurt?
How you doing?
Fine, how are you? Well, I just wanted to say that I don't really think that you're being used as good as you could be in the WWF, and I think that you should be in events and stuff.
Hello?
He was just saying that he thinks that you could even be used. He could be used higher in the card. The time will come. I wouldn't worry about it. Kurt is very high considering how much time he's actually spent in wrestling.
It's been about 7 months, so
it's actually amazing.
I think where I am right now is good. I don't think going up too fast is a smart thing. I think building a character and working your way up is a lot better. So, you know, I know a lot of people would expect, and not that I deserve to be up there. I don't think I do yet, but you know, a lot of people would expect to see like an Olympic champion go straight up and compete for the belt right away. But that's why Vince is so effective. I think that he makes sure these people appreciate and like the characters before they actually see them evolve into main event status. And I think Vince had plans of me, you know, taking my time and you know, after King of the Ring, I see a lot of things happening. So I'm real excited about this month. It's going to be a big month for me, and then I just have to take it step by step from there. But I mean, I don't know if you guys agree with me, but I can't complain with the direction they've taken me so far.
I think one thing, you know, that this makes me kind of remember when I first started watching you wrestle in Memphis. It reminded me a lot of Jack Briscoe, who was NCAA champion in '65, '66, who then went to pro wrestling and was one of in the early '70s was probably just about the biggest name in the business as NWA champion. And Jack Briscoe, it took him basically he was pretty much on the road to the top in 3 years, and by the 4th year, he was, right up there as the, Dory Funk Jr.'s big challenger when they were the top 2 NWA stars.
Right.
So, I mean, when we're talking about, like, a guy who's been in wrestling for under 2 years, remember even Briscoe, who was considered like a phenomenon coming out of amateur wrestling, it took him pretty much 3-4 years. So it's not like he's moving slow. I mean, he's going really fast.
Oh, yeah, I think so, too. And a lot of people think I'm moving a lot slower than I am, but you're right. It takes time to get there. And there's so many guys that deserve to be up there, and I think you have to earn your keep. And like you said, it just takes a little more time. Down in Memphis, I enjoyed working down there for the sole fact that I was able to wrestle at least 3 or 4 matches per week. As far as character development, they hardly ever let me talk. And obviously I was a straight-laced babyface, like a 1970 babyface, so there wasn't a real lot they could do with me down there. And I wasn't able to show them much of my talent, at least not on the microphone and stuff like that. So I wanted to get out of there right away. I actually wanted to develop more where they could teach me more on the road, where I would be traveling a lot more and maybe give me opportunities to do promos at house shows and stuff, but they wanted me to stick down there for a while and I think get my working ability, my wrestling ability down before I came up. But my character is, I'm comfortable with the character, and I think that's why I've improved quite a bit, because I like it. In my character, the Kurt Angle in the WWF cracks me up, and he excites me because every time I go out there, I'm laughing before the fans are because I can't believe that I'd actually say some of the things that I do. So when you enjoy doing that, and you get excited about it, obviously you're going to perform pretty well. And that's what I have to give a lot of credit to the creative guys because they're sending me in a direction that I completely enjoy.
You did some work as a sportscaster, right?
Yeah, I worked for about 8 months as a sportscaster, and the job was pure hell because they never taught me how to do it. They just threw me under, right in the fire. The first night on the air, I was a sports anchor, and I never had any kind of development. I had no rehearsal. It was just go in there and listen to the anchor, and she'll tell you what to do. And it was like, oh, my gosh, I was like a deer in headlights. And it took me a couple months to adapt, but by the time I got the hang of it, I'd say about 3 or 4 months, I actually became quite decent. But I think the progress was so slow that people didn't accept me as a good sportscaster, and I didn't think I was. But then again, I wasn't prepared the right way, and I never did anything like that in college. I basically got the job because I was an Olympic champion and a hometown hero in Pittsburgh. And that's not the right way to get a job. But the money was good, and I didn't want to pass it up. And there I was, being a sportscaster in Pittsburgh. But I'll never trade it in for the world because I learned a lot. And
so it was like a local sports show?
Yeah, it was actually a Fox station in Pittsburgh. So it was Fox 53, the Fox affiliate here in Pittsburgh.
Do you think that 8 months there has helped you as far as on camera for wrestling?
Definitely helped me. But like I said before, when I was up at the WWF, I sound more like a sportscaster than I did a character, and that's because that's what I was taught first thing out of the Olympics.
Al, what's the next caller's name? Is it Tony?
I'm sorry?
Tim. Okay, I'm sorry. It's Tim. Okay, I was just okay. Tim. It's Tim in Chicago. You're next up.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Pretty good.
Going real good.
I don't know. I just want to talk about. Me and my friend actually did that at work over at the NL40. We were talking about how far you've come along and stuff, and it was pretty cool. We also talking about somebody earlier called in with one of your quotes that they liked, and my personal favorite I read over at WrestleWire.com where you were like, you had a match with Kane, and you said something like, I'm fighting the big red retard tonight, and not that I have anything against retarded people, because I don't. As a matter of fact, I have a lot of retarded fans out there.
That was pretty funny.
That love and appreciate their Olympic hero.
Oh, God.
I remember that.
And then,
I do have to admit, Vince McMahon was not real happy with that one.
Oh, really?
No, he wasn't happy. That was something that my creative guy came up with, and he brought it to Vince right before Vince was going out. Vince was actually preparing for something, and Vince wasn't quite, his mind wasn't quite into it, so when Bryan brought it to his attention, Vince said, sure, go ahead. And when I went out and he was watching on TV, he was like, oh, my God. So when I got backstage, he said, hey, let's stay away from that stuff, all right? And I said, okay. I didn't know.
You know what's funny is when you said that, I had like a split feeling on that, because the first one was like, I see where Vince McMahon's coming, and the other one was, well, it's right out of Something About Mary, which was, a hit not all that much earlier than that, and it's like, you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I know what you're saying, and I didn't feel real comfortable doing it, but, when he said, Vince said okay, I thought, all right, go out there and do it, because I trust Vince completely. And if he has me say something, I know there's a reason for it. And, Vince is a very organized guy that he knows what direction he wants to take you. And his impulse is so fast, he knows what's right and wrong before it happens. I mean, he could tell you, let's say I'm doing a commentary with Jim Ross and Jerry the King, and I'm sitting down, I got the earphones on. He is actually, half the time, he's telling you what to say. And he is so good at it, like he's actually on the microphone. He's the one in your ear that you're listening to. It's Vince. It's not anybody else. And Vince will tell you what to say and when to say it at the right time. And it just brings your character out. You don't even know what you're saying half the time. And then when you watch it on TV, you're like, oh, geez, no wonder I said that, because Vince was right. I should have been saying that. So Vince is so quick and he's so good at the business that he could play any character he wants. He could play Kurt Angle, Stone Cold himself. He is just he's a brilliant man that has shown there's no doubt about it. He's made a lot of mistakes in his life, and he's admitted that. But he's learned from those mistakes, and it's made him stronger. It's made this company stronger, and now here he is, as strong as can be, and he's having a lot of success. You can't disagree with that.
No. There was a line there about trusting Vince completely all of a sudden. Anyway, I don't want to bring that up.
Dave, I have one other question.
Well, with my character, I got to say that he's done nothing but good.
Yeah, he has. Anyway, go ahead.
Oh, I was just wondering. I was listening to that. I don't know if you ever listened to it. It's that garbage WCW live show.
I never listened to it, but I do hear about it every so often.
Yeah, I was like listening to it last night, and after Thunder, one of the worst Thunders ever, probably. And I don't know. Whenever they call in that moron, fat ass Bob Ryder, he'll just be like, No. Seriously,
you can disagree with Bob Ryder, but no fat jokes or bald jokes or anything like that. I mean, I don't mean to say that. I just let's keep it civil.
Oh, all right.
But you can say whatever you want about him. I don't care.
All right, but if anybody calls,
as long as you don't say anything bad about him, his personal life.
All right,
nothing in that direction either. Okay,
right.
Go ahead.
But, I don't know. If somebody calls in and they complain about something that happens or anything, that he's just like, okay, and then they'll click the guy off. They're nothing. I don't know. I just hate that show. They're not open like about things like you guys are and stuff.
Well, they're in a bad they're in a bad position right now. I mean, it's the product's not doing very well, and they have to defend it, and it's tough. I'm glad I'm not in their shoes. I'll tell you that. Not that I condone anything they do.
Who's he talking about?
The WCW Live crew.
Oh.
Yeah. So I just don't want to get to their level where it becomes us baiting them or anything like that.
Sure.
But So anyway.
All right. Thanks for the time.
Okay. Let's go to Jamie. Jamie, you're next.
Hi, Kurt. How you doing?
How you doing?
Pretty good. I have a couple of questions. The first one: what would be a typical day? Like how many hours do you work out, and how many meals do you usually eat a day?
Did you hear that?
Yeah, I think he said something about how many hours I work out a day.
How many hours you work out and how many meals you eat a day?
Okay, I eat about 10 meals a day.
Seriously?
Yeah, and I work out between an hour and a half and 2 hours a day, which is way down from my Olympic training, which was 8 hours a day. I eat from the time I get up, which is about 8 a.m. until midnight, every 2 hours. So 8, 10, 12, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12.
A lot of options.
9 or 10 times.
Do you do like bars or something, or do you prepare food when you're going on the road?
A little bit of both. When I'm on the road, that's where you have to suck it up, and I bring a lot of whey protein. I don't like eating a lot of bars because, let's face it, most of the protein bars out there, they're basically proteined up candy bars, and so you have to watch what you're eating on the road, and it's really hard to do. But I try to eat 3 or 4 times a day on the road at restaurants, at particular restaurants. I try to find good ones, and they're hard to find. But most of the time, I'm taking my whey protein with me. And I usually have probably 6 or 7 shakes a day.
Are you pretty disciplined as far as on the road, as far as junk food, alcohol, things like that? Or?
I don't drink at all. When I'm on the road, I eat as strictly as I can. When I come home, I relax a little bit more, and the reason why is because I'm not home all that much. So when I come home, I try to enjoy my time with my wife, and we let loose a little bit. Eat some sweets and that stuff like that. That's about as crazy as we get here in Pittsburgh. But I stay away from the booze, and I try to get as much sleep as I can on the road because it's grueling. When you're on the road 5 days, 6 days a week, especially the way it is right now, you have to get your right amount of rest, or you're going to be screwed.
Okay, let's go to Masad. You'll be our last caller today.
Hi guys, I've got a question for Kurt. You remember your entrance at the Survivor Series, and everyone was booing you, and you went on the microphone. You said you do not boo an American gold medalist.
Uh-huh.
Were you going in there expecting boos and that in your mind, or was that just spontaneous?
Okay, this is where we straight shoot. Well, at Survivor Series, I don't know if you could tell, but I was scared to death. I mean, that was my first match on TV. And I went out there, I was in Detroit at the Joe Louis Arena, and I went out there and the fans booed me, so I was like, oh heck, which direction is Vince going? Because Vince wasn't clear on which direction I was going. He didn't tell me that I was going to be a babyface or a heel. He just basically said, go out there and have a good match. So I went out, had a good match, and here Stasiak's getting the better of me, puts me in a rest hold where he's kind of choking me out. And the referee comes up to me and said, Vince said, go over to the microphone and you tell these people do not boo an Olympic champion. You do not boo an Olympic champion. I looked up at the ref and I said, you're serious, right? He said, I'm as serious as I can get. Go over. He said, take over right now. Go over, grab that microphone, and you go off on those people. So I did it. And what happened? The fans really got into me. I mean, they were like, you suck, Angle. And all of a sudden, they were booing me as much as they could. And Vince picked it. You know, he did it at the right time. And that's what I'm trying to tell you is Vince is real good at timing. And his impulses are so fast, and he just knows what the right thing to do. I don't know if anyone knows this, but Vince is up in the stage, in the gorilla we call it, where you have conversation with the commentators and the officials, and Vince pretty much is up there running most of the show. The guy works hard, and he makes a lot of good decisions, and he definitely made the right one with me my first night, and from then on I just listened to whatever he had to say, and he told me what to say when I went out there, and it worked.
Anything else, Masad?
Yeah, quick question for Dave. What's the chance of getting Hogan on? All of us want to give him a piece of our mind.
Hogan?
Yeah.
Hogan? I don't think very good.
Do you want
what?
Do you want to get him on?
Hogan, I mean, pretty much anyone at that caliber.
We need a longer show.
Yeah, we would. But if anyone at that caliber, if they want to do the show, I'm not gonna say no, or anything like that. Just to, but I don't expect that he would do the show. I guess is the best way to put it. I wouldn't say it's impossible, but I wouldn't expect it. I mean, it's certainly not right now. It's going to be hard enough for anyone from WCW, but who knows? I mean, I would never say never. Though, if this show's on long enough, probably like in 10 years, Hogan probably would do it.
And do it well.
That would be quite the show.
And then we'll need a 4-hour show.
At least.
10 more years to talk about.
What? Talking about that
10 more years on top to talk about.
Well, he's going to be around because him and Nicholas have to be a tag team.
That's right.
They already established that. So that's how old's Nicholas now? His son.
I have no idea.
It's probably 10-ish. So we got at least 10 more years of him on top. Oh God, Kurt, I want to thank you very much for doing the show. We're pretty much
thank you.
Out of time, and I want to wish you the best of luck, and I hope that at the Survivor Series everything goes exactly as you're looking for, because it sounds like you're pretty excited about that show. I mean, not Survivor Series, King of the Ring.
King of the Ring, there you go.
Yeah, Survivor Series.
Yeah, I'm real excited, and I hope everything goes the way it's planned, and hopefully things will work out the way I explain them. But I thank you guys for having me on. Anytime you want me on, let me know.
Okay, great. We would love to have you on again. And I want to tell everyone, don't forget, we're going to have Frank Shamrock on Friday and Jim Cornette on Monday, and we'll see you tomorrow at 6.